Commander Vex-Nalar adjusted his ceremonial armor, the polished plates reflecting the harsh training facility lights. As the most decorated military instructor in the Galactic Coalition's history, he had trained warriors from 17 different species. Yet none had prepared him for this moment, the arrival of the first human cadets to the prestigious Nexus Military Academy. "So these are the infamous Terrans," he muttered to his aide, Lieutenant Quinn Voss, a lanky Zilithian with 4 arms and the nervous habit of clicking his mandibles. "Small, weak-looking creatures, aren't they?" Quinn Voss clicked anxiously. "Sir, the reports suggest they might be more unpredictable than they appear." Vex-Nalar snorted, a sound that resonated through his nasal slits like a broken air filter. "Unpredictable? They're barely taller than a gnomish engineer and twice as fragile. Look at them, no natural armor, no claws, no enhanced musculature. How did these pink, squishy things even survive their own planet?" The human cadets stood in formation, looking remarkably ordinary. Their leader, a female named Captain Maya Thornton, stood at attention with her dark hair pulled back severely. Her companion, Lieutenant James Murphy, shifted his weight from foot to foot, clearly uncomfortable in the alien environment. Behind them, Sergeant Luna Vasquez maintained perfect posture despite the obvious tension radiating from her compact frame. "Today," Vex-Nalar announced, his voice booming across the training grounds, "you will learn what it means to be warriors in this galaxy. You will learn discipline, respect, and the proper order of things." He began pacing in front of the mixed group of alien cadets, his 8-foot frame casting long shadows. In the Coalition, strength determines hierarchy. The strong lead, the weak follow. This has been our way for millennia, and it has brought peace to countless worlds. Maya stepped forward slightly. "Sir, with respect, on Earth we believe leadership comes from character, not just physical strength." The training ground fell silent. Even the Corinthian cadets, known for their chattering, stopped their whispered conversations. Vex-Nalar's orange eyes narrowed to slits. "Did I give you permission to speak, human?" "No, sir." But nothing. Vex-Nalar's voice cracked like a whip. "You will learn your place, or you will be removed from this academy. Do I make myself clear?" Maya's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. The other human cadets exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the aggressive tone. For the next 3 hours, Vex-Nalar put the cadets through grueling exercises designed to showcase the physical superiority of the alien species. The Krathari cadets, with their rock-like skin, barely registered the impact of the weighted training equipment. The Vortanian cadets, naturally flexible, bent and twisted through obstacle courses with ease. The human cadets, meanwhile, struggled with equipment designed for beings twice their size and strength. "Pathetic," Vex-Nalar commented as James stumbled under a load that a Krathari cadet carried effortlessly. "Your species claims to be warriors, yet you cannot even lift a standard training weight." "Maybe the equipment wasn't designed for our physiology," Maya suggested, breathing heavily after completing an obstacle course in what was actually impressive time for a human. Vex-Nalar's laugh was like grinding metal. "Excuses. The mark of a weak species. You adapt to the equipment, not the other way around." As the day wore on, the commander's treatment of the human cadets became increasingly harsh. He singled them out for criticism, assigned them impossible tasks, and openly mocked their efforts in front of the other cadets. The alien cadets watched with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort. Some, like the Zilithians, clicked nervously. Others, like the Krathari, remained stoically silent. "Sir," Quinn Voss whispered during a brief break, "perhaps we should ease up on the humans. The other instructors are starting to talk." "Let them talk," Vex-Nalar snarled. "These humans need to understand their place in the galactic order. They're new, they're weak, and they need to be humbled before they get ideas above their station." The breaking point came during combat training. Vex-Nalar had paired the cadets for sparring matches, deliberately matching the humans against much larger opponents. Maya found herself facing a Krathari cadet who outweighed her by at least 100 pounds and whose skin could deflect most conventional weapons. "This isn't a fair match," James protested as his friend prepared to face the stone-skinned warrior. "Life isn't fair, human," Vex-Nalar replied. "Combat isn't fair. If your species is too weak to compete, perhaps you should consider civilian careers instead of military ones." The match began, and predictably, Maya was quickly overwhelmed. The Krathari cadet, though trying to be gentle, still sent her sprawling with a single push. She got up, dusted herself off, and tried again, and again, and again. "Enough," Vex-Nalar finally called. "This is embarrassing to watch." Maya straightened, her face flushed with exertion and frustration. "I can keep going, sir." "No, you cannot. You're done. All of you humans are done for today. Return to your quarters and contemplate whether you truly belong here." As the cadets began to disperse, Maya remained standing in the center of the training ground. "Sir, I request permission to speak." "Denied." "Sir, I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for fair treatment. How are we supposed to prove ourselves if we're not given a real chance?" Vex-Nalar's patience finally snapped. The day's frustrations, the whispered criticisms from other instructors, and his own growing doubts about his methods all combined into a surge of anger. "You want a real chance?" he roared, advancing on Maya. "You want to prove yourself?" Before anyone could react, before Maya could even register what was happening, Vex-Nalar's massive hand came across her face in a sharp, humiliating slap that echoed through the training facility like a gunshot. The silence that followed was deafening. Every cadet, every instructor, every maintenance worker in the vicinity froze. In coalition culture, striking a subordinate was not just improper, it was a challenge to mortal combat. Maya's head had snapped to the side from the impact, and for a moment she stood perfectly still. Then, slowly, she turned her face back toward Vex-Nalar. Her cheek was red with the imprint of his hand, but her eyes were calm, deadly calm. "Sir," she said quietly, "I believe you just challenged me to combat." Vex-Nalar's orange eyes widened as he realized what he had done. That was not my intention. By coalition law, I have the right to accept or decline. Is that correct?" Quinvos stepped forward, clicking rapidly. "Sir, perhaps we should." "I accept," Maya said simply. The training ground erupted in whispers and chittering sounds as the alien cadets processed what had just happened. Combat challenges were rare, usually reserved for serious matters of honor. For a human to challenge a Nexus instructor, especially Commander Vex-Nalar. "You don't understand what you're doing," Vex-Nalar warned, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "I have 17 years of combat experience. I've trained warriors from across the galaxy. You're a human cadet who's been here for one day." Maya smiled, and there was something unsettling about that smile. "Sir, I've been training since I was 5 years old. Earth might be new to the Coalition, but we've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten pretty good at it." She began to circle him slowly, and Vex-Nalar noticed something he had missed before. The way she moved, the balance, the positioning. This wasn't the clumsy human who had stumbled through the obstacle course earlier. "You know..." "Oh," Maya continued conversationally, "Earth had a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. We've had to fight for everything we've ever achieved. Every inch of progress, every technological advancement, every step toward the stars, we fought for it." Vex-Nalar realized with growing alarm that he might have made a serious mistake. "Perhaps we should call this off." "Oh no, sir," Maya interrupted, still circling. "You wanted to show me my place? You wanted to teach me about respect? Let's finish the lesson." The attack came without warning. One moment Maya was speaking calmly, The next she was moving with a speed and precision that defied everything Vex-Nalar thought he knew about human capabilities. She closed the distance between them in a heartbeat, her hand shooting out to grab his wrist as he instinctively moved to defend himself. What happened next would be replayed in security footage for years to come. Maya's grip locked onto Vex-Nalar's wrist with surprising strength. Her body twisted, using his own momentum against him, and before he could react, she had applied a joint lock that would have made any martial arts master proud. The sound of breaking bone was sharp and final. Vex-Nalar's roar of pain echoed through the facility as he dropped to one knee, his wrist bent at an unnatural angle. 4 seconds. That's all it had taken. Maya released him and stepped back, breathing normally. "I believe that concludes our lesson, sir. Thank you for the educational experience." As Vex-Nalar writhed on the ground, clutching his broken wrist, the assembled cadets stared in stunned silence. The human cadets looked equally shocked, but there was something else in their expressions: pride. Medical team to Training Ground 7, Maya called out calmly. "Commander Vex-Nalar requires immediate attention for a wrist fracture." Quinvos rushed to his superior's side, clicking frantically. How did you?" "Humans are persistence hunters, Lieutenant," Maya explained, helping Vex-Nalar to his feet with surprising gentleness. "We evolved to chase prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. We're not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most naturally armored, but we don't give up. Ever." The medical team arrived and began tending to Vex-Nalar's injury. As they worked, he looked up at Maya with a mixture of pain and newfound respect. What was that technique?" he gasped. "Aikido, sir. It's an earth martial art that focuses on using an opponent's strength against them. We've developed dozens of such systems over the centuries. When you're not the apex predator, you learn to be creative." As the medical team prepared to transport Vex-Nalar to the infirmary, he managed one last question. Why did you help me up?" Maya looked genuinely puzzled. "Because you were hurt, sir. On Earth we have another saying, the fight ends when it ends. You're no longer my opponent. You're an injured person who needs help." As the commander was carried away, the assembled cadets remained silent, processing what they had witnessed. Finally, one of the Krithari cadets, whose stone-like features rarely showed emotion, spoke up. "Human Maya," he said slowly, "will you teach us this Aikido?" Maya smiled, and this time it was warm and genuine. "I'd be happy to, Cadet Stonewalker. After all, we're all here to learn from each other, aren't we?" As the crowd began to disperse, James and Luna flanked Maya, their expressions a mixture of pride and concern. "Think you might have made an enemy today?" James whispered. Maya watched as the medical team disappeared around the corner. "Maybe. Or maybe I made a point. Either way, I don't think anyone's going to underestimate humans again anytime soon." She was wrong about that. Word of the incident would spread through the academy within hours, and by morning, every species in the coalition would know about the human cadet who had broken a Nexus commander's wrist in 4 seconds. But that was tomorrow's problem. Today, the humans had proven something important. They belonged here, and they wouldn't be pushed around. The question was, what would the coalition do about it? High Admiral Keth Morvac paced behind his desk like a caged predator, his 6 arms gesticulating wildly as he spoke into the communication array. As the Supreme Commander of Nexus Military Academy, he had dealt with diplomatic incidents before, but nothing quite like this. "Let me understand this correctly," he said, his voice dripping with the kind of sarcasm that could etch metal. "One of our most decorated instructors was defeated by a human cadet who weighs roughly half what he does. And this happened in front of witnesses from 7 different species?" The holographic image of Admiral Telvashian flickered slightly as she nodded from her position aboard the Coalition flagship. "The security footage has been reviewed by our best analysts. The human female executed a flawless joint manipulation technique. Vex-Nalar never stood a chance. Wonderful, Keth Morvok muttered. Just wonderful. Do you have any idea what kind of political mess this creates? Half the Coalition Council thinks humans are too primitive for membership, and now we have footage of one of them humiliating our training staff. In the Academy's medical wing, Vex-Nalar stared at the ceiling from his hospital bed, his wrist encased in a bioregeneration field. The throbbing pain was nothing compared to the ache in his pride. Quinn Voss sat beside him, clicking nervously as he scrolled through incident reports on his datapad. Sir, the lieutenant ventured carefully, perhaps you should know the footage has been classified, but rumors are spreading through the Academy like wildfire. What kind of rumors? Vex-Nalar asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know. Well, the Chthari cadets are saying that humans possess some kind of secret combat enhancement. The Zilithians think it was a fluke. The Corinthians are placing bets on which instructor the humans will challenge next. Vex-Nalar groaned. And what are the humans doing? Teaching Aikido to anyone who asks. Down in the secondary training facility, Maya knelt on a practice mat surrounded by a curious collection of alien cadets. Stone Walker, the Chthari who had first asked for instruction, was attempting to perform a basic wrist throw on his Vortanian partner, Bend Leaf. Remember, Maya explained patiently, you're not trying to overpower your opponent. You're redirecting their energy. Feel where they're pushing. Then guide that force in a new direction. Stonewalker's rocky features scrunched in concentration as he slowly executed the technique. Bend Leaf, despite his flexible physiology, found himself gently but firmly deposited on the mat. Incredible, chirped a Corinthian cadet named Swift Song. How did your species develop such techniques? Maya sat back on her heels considering the question. Well, when you're sharing a planet with creatures that can literally eat you for breakfast, you learn to be creative. Humans weren't the strongest or fastest on Earth, so we had to become the smartest and most adaptable. But surely your planet wasn't that dangerous, protested a young Zilithian cadet. I mean, you survived to reach the stars. James, who had been spotting for another pair of students, laughed. Want to hear something funny? Humans used to hunt mammoths, creatures 10 times our size, with massive tusks and thick hides. You know how we did it? The alien cadets leaned in eagerly. Persistence. We'd follow a mammoth for days, sometimes weeks, never letting it rest. Eventually, it would collapse from exhaustion, and then we'd move in for the kill. We literally annoyed our prey to death. The aliens exchanged glances. The concept of persistence hunting was foreign to most of their species, who relied on either overwhelming physical superiority or advanced technology. That's terrifying, Swift Song admitted. Your species doesn't give up, does it? Nope, Luna said cheerfully from across the room, where she was demonstrating proper falling techniques. We're like a really annoying rash. We just keep coming back. Meanwhile, in the Academy's main conference room, a heated debate was underway. The facility's senior staff had gathered to discuss the human situation, as they were diplomatically calling it. Captain Vier Helios, the Academy's chief tactical instructor, was a 7-foot-tall insectoid whose compound eyes reflected the room's harsh lighting. I've reviewed the combat footage 17 times, he announced. The human's technique was flawless, but more importantly, she demonstrated tactical awareness that suggests advanced training. Advanced training? Scoffed Major Clax Torthen, a bulky amphibian whose species prided itself on physical prowess. She got lucky. One good hit doesn't make someone a warrior. With respect, Major, interrupted Dr. Yul Farron, the Academy xenobiologist, I've been analyzing human physiology since their arrival. Their bone density, muscle fiber composition, and neural response times suggest they're far more formidable than initial assessments indicated. The room erupted in multilingual chatter as various species voiced their opinions simultaneously. The clicking of Zilithian mandibles mixed with Corinthian chirping and the low rumbles of Chthari voices. Quiet. Admiral Keth Morvok's booming voice cut through the noise. We're not here to debate human capabilities. We're here to decide how to handle this diplomatic incident. Diplomatic incident? Captain Vire Helios tilted his insectoid head. A cadet defended herself against an unprovoked attack. By coalition law, she was within her rights. By coalition law, yes, the Admiral agreed reluctantly. But politics aren't always about law. The human species is still under evaluation for full membership. This incident could be used by their opponents to argue that humans are too aggressive for civilized society. What none of the debating officials knew was that their meeting was being monitored by a very interested third party. In her private quarters, Maya sat cross-legged on her bunk, a small communication device hidden beneath her pillow. The device, standard Earth intelligence equipment, had been scanning Academy communications since her arrival. "Are you getting all this?" she whispered into the tiny microphone. The response came through an even tinier earpiece, loud and clear, "Captain. Command is very interested in their assessment of human capabilities." "They still don't get it," Maya murmured. "They think this was about one technique, one fight. They have no idea what they're dealing with." She was right. The coalition's analysis of human behavior was fundamentally flawed because it was based on their own species' approaches to conflict. Most alien species in the coalition had evolved as either apex predators or herd animals. They understood dominance hierarchies, territorial disputes, and resource competition. What they didn't understand was guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, or the human tendency to turn any situation into a learning opportunity. The next morning brought new complications. Admiral Keth Morvac received a priority communication from the Coalition High Council, and the news was not good. "Admiral," came the voice of Counselor Veth Prime, a being so ancient that his species had forgotten what he originally looked like. "We've received reports about an incident at your facility. The human delegation to the Council is demanding a full investigation." "Sir, the situation is under control." "Is it?" "Because I'm looking at a preliminary report that suggests one of your instructors assaulted a diplomatic cadet. Do you understand the implications if this becomes public?" Keth Morvac's stomach, all three of them, sank. "Sir, with respect, Vex-Nalar was maintaining discipline. By striking a subordinate? Admiral, either your training methods are barbaric or your instructors lack proper judgment. Neither reflects well on the Academy." As if summoned by the conversation, Vex-Nalar appeared in the Admiral's office doorway. His wrist was still in a regeneration cast, but he was mobile and clearly determined to address the situation personally. "Sir," he said, saluting awkwardly with his good hand, "I request permission to speak with the human cadets." "Absolutely not," Keth Morvac replied immediately. "You've done enough damage." "Sir, please. I need to understand what happened. How did she move so fast? How did she know exactly where to apply pressure?" This wasn't luck or beginner's fortune. She had training, extensive training. The Admiral studied his subordinate carefully. Vex-Nalar was many things, but he wasn't stupid. If he said the human's technique indicated advanced preparation, it was worth investigating. "Very well, but you'll be accompanied by security, and any sign of trouble." "Understood, sir." 20 minutes later, Vex-Nalar found himself standing outside the secondary training facility, listening to the sounds of instruction and laughter from within. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see Maya demonstrating some kind of grappling technique to a mixed group of alien cadets. "She's teaching them," he murmured to the security guard beside him. "Sir? Look at them. They're not just learning techniques. They're learning to think differently about combat." Inside the facility, Maya was explaining the philosophical foundations of martial arts. In many Earth fighting systems, the goal isn't to destroy your opponent. It's to end the conflict with minimal harm to everyone involved. "But surely," protested Stonewalker, "in war, the goal is victory?" "Victory, yes, But what kind of victory? If you destroy your enemy completely, you've also destroyed any chance of future cooperation. Sometimes the best victory is turning an enemy into an ally. Vex-Nalar felt something twist in his chest. He had spent decades teaching that might made right, that the strong naturally dominated the weak. But listening to this human explain combat philosophy, he began to question assumptions he'd held his entire career. He knocked on the facility door. The room fell silent as he entered, his security escort behind him. The alien cadets looked nervous, clearly unsure how to react to the instructor their human teacher had defeated. "Commander," Maya said respectfully, standing and offering a slight bow. "How's your wrist?" "Healing," he replied curtly. Then, more quietly, "I came to apologize." The silence that followed was profound. In all their time at the academy, none of the alien cadets had ever heard an instructor apologize to a student. "Sir," Maya said carefully, "there's no need." "Yes, there is." Vex-Nalar stepped forward, his orange eyes meeting hers directly. "I let my prejudices cloud my judgment. I treated you and your fellow humans poorly because I made assumptions about your capabilities based on your appearance." He gestured to his injured wrist. "You taught me that strength comes in many forms. I should have recognized that from the beginning." Maya smiled, and again there was that unsettling quality to it that suggested she was thinking several moves ahead. "Commander, would you like to learn some techniques?" What? What?" "You're here, we're here, and frankly, I think the other cadets would benefit from seeing their instructors learning alongside them. It would demonstrate that growth and adaptation are continuous processes." Vex-Nalar looked around the room at the expectant faces of cadets from multiple species. The Crithari were stoic as always, but their eyes showed interest. The Zilithians were clicking softly with excitement. The Corinthians were practically vibrating with anticipation. "I suppose," he said slowly, "I could observe a demonstration." "Excellent." Maya clapped her hands together. "Stonewalker, would you mind partnering with the commander? Start with the basic redirection we practiced yesterday." As the lesson continued, Vex-Nalar found himself genuinely impressed, not just with the techniques, but with Maya's teaching methods. She didn't just show movements, she explained the reasoning behind them, the physics involved, and how they could be adapted for different body types and strengths. The beauty of these systems, she explained as Stonewalker successfully threw Vex-Nalar using his own momentum, is that they work regardless of your physical advantages. A Crithari can use them against a Vortanian, a Zilithian against a Corinthian. The principles are universal. "How many such systems does your species have?" Vex-Nalar asked, picking himself up from the mat with considerably more respect for human ingenuity. "Hundreds," Maya replied casually. "Maybe thousands, depending on how you count regional variations. We've been fighting each other for so long that we've developed techniques for every conceivable situation." "Fighting each other?" Swiftsong asked. "You mean your species still has internal conflicts?" James and Luna exchanged glances. This was delicate territory. "Earth has known peace for only brief periods in its history," Maya explained carefully. "Most human cultures developed in competition with other human cultures. We've been our own greatest challenge for millennia." The alien cadets looked horrified. Most of their species had achieved planetary unity before developing space travel. "That's terrible," breathed Ben Leaf. "How did you survive as a species?" "By learning," Maya said simply. "Every conflict taught us something new. Every defeat showed us our weaknesses. Every victory revealed new possibilities. Humans don't just adapt to survive, we adapt to excel." Vex-Nalar was beginning to understand something that would fundamentally change how the coalition viewed humanity. These weren't just another species seeking membership in their galactic community. These were survivors, innovators, warriors who had been forged in the crucible of planetary conflict. "Commander," Maya said, pulling him aside as the lesson concluded. "May I speak freely?" "Of course." "The Coalition's assessment of human capabilities is incomplete. You've evaluated us based on physical parameters and technological development, but you haven't considered our most important advantage." "Which is?" Maya smiled that unsettling smile again. "We never stop learning. Every setback is a lesson. Every victory is preparation for the next challenge." "You broke my friend's confidence with your training methods, so we adapted. You underestimated our combat abilities, so we demonstrated them. Whatever challenge the Coalition presents next, we'll find a way to overcome it." "That sounds almost like a threat." "Not a threat, sir. A promise. Humans don't give up. Ever. And now that we're part of the galactic community, that persistence is at your service. The question is, do you want us as allies, or do you want to keep treating us like primitive newcomers?" As Vex-Nalar walked back to his quarters that evening, he composed a detailed report for Admiral Keth Morvac. The report would fundamentally change how the Coalition approached human integration, and recommending immediate elevation to full membership status and suggesting that human tactical expertise be incorporated into Coalition military doctrine. But more importantly, it would acknowledge something that should have been obvious from the moment humans reached the stars. Any species that could survive 10,000 years of warfare on a death world developed technologies to traverse the galaxy. And still maintain their curiosity and compassion was not to be underestimated. The human cadets returned to their quarters that night knowing they had crossed a significant threshold. They were no longer outsiders trying to prove themselves worthy of acceptance. They were partners in building a stronger, more adaptable galactic community. And if anyone else wanted to test human resolve, well, Maya had taught them that the best defense was making sure no one wanted to fight you in the first place. The story of the human cadet, who broke a commander's wrist in 4 seconds, would become legend throughout the Coalition. But the real victory wasn't the fight itself, it was proving that strength, wisdom, and respect could coexist in ways that made everyone stronger. After all, humans had spent millennia learning that the greatest victories were the ones that turned enemies into allies. The Coalition was about to discover what that meant,